how do you find someone like for your team as an entrepreneur even, or just in general? Obviously you've bought businesses, you've built businesses, what's the selection process look like for you? What do you look for? What's the qualities in someone that you really think are important?
So I've had a lot of amazing people that have worked with me, work for me today, guys that are better at certain skill sets than I am by far. But really the key drivers, the key attributes that I look for in a hire, first of all, just tremendous integrity and honesty and transparency, like kind of number one. And number two, someone that has a work ethic that's equal to mine. Again, it's a work-life harmony. It's your life. It's all of you. So now it depends on the position. Obviously, I'm talking about people that are close to me and, the proverbial C-suite, if you will, or shoulder to shoulder. So I look for those special characteristics where the relationship between the person grows beyond any contract, right? It becomes something that you would trust your children with these people and vice versa. And so if you can create those bonds and really trust, because the main thing about getting someone to trust you is you trusting them, you giving that trust. The more vulnerable you are, the more likely that person's really going to give that back to you. And if you can get there with people and have really, great complementary skill sets, I'm telling you, you can really achieve a lot, maybe more than most people think.
Interesting. So you're so inspirational. Motivational speaking is something you might want to consider. You obviously, your background and your experience is
Very kind
incredible.
word, thank you.
Is there anything?
You're such a nice host, Jason.
Oh, warms my heart. No, but hey, I gotta give credit where credit's due. I mean, tell me, is there anything else and I'm sure we could talk about leadership for hours.
Yeah.
But is there anything that stands, out? You touch on the fact that you got to let go a little bit as a very important quality to move the business forward. What else do you look at in terms of, leadership and, obviously qualities that might be in yourself even that, are important?
Yeah. I had another gentleman that we bought out once, and I was working, we started to integrate the acquisition, and I was talking to all the middle managers, and we were trying to organize the structure. And, the guy says, this kid, don't talk to this guy. That guy's a bad manager, or this guy's a bad manager, or that guy doesn't know how to manage. And it was sort of early on in our corporate building. And I was thinking to myself, they keep saying how bad of a manager this person, and that person, and this person, and that person. And then I was sort of asking, we really wanted to delve into the idiosyncrasies and maybe the science of what makes a good manager. Why is this person not a good manager? And so after analyzing people, it came back to some of those original tenets that we spoke about, where it was, humility and ability to communicate, because ultimately there was a culture there where the managers kind of ruled with, a stick. And so there's old, sentiments out there. You can lead with fear, you can lead with love, which is right. And so this is really about management, how you deal with a certain problem, or how do you deal with people. And so ultimately, the learning for us was radical transparency and the capability to sit with someone eye to eye, whether you're the forklift driver or the next billion-dollar CEO, and in a very sort of, I would say, equal footing, be able to communicate. Just communicate. Just the ability to be able to express opinions and have a rational conversation or interaction where healthy debate or conversation can exist. If you can do that, then you should be able to express what you need done from that person. What's the point of the communication in the management cycle? If I'm going to a subordinate or something else, or someone in the organization, say, hey, look, I need this. Here's why. So how are we going to get it done? Because the organization requires it. It's my job to be able to communicate that, manage the process, and how do we fix it together? And if you run up against roadblocks where you've got someone who's completely insubordinate to you and so on and so forth, that will flush out. But ultimately, you've got to move the vision of the business. It's just, how do you communicate it? How do you manage it? How do you do it in a respectful way where you get the kind of response that you want? If you can do that, you create real fluidity.
Yeah. Do you have any examples? Like, I'm curious, like people are, listening to this, very inspirational. Do you have any like personal examples of any of this, happening, any parts of, your leadership and, I guess issues you've covered? You talk about, some of the businesses you've obviously bought and changes you've made, but do you have any thing you want to say that you've done in your past?
I mean, truthfully, the nuance of management and thus refining one's capability to really communicate and connect, that happens every day.
Yeah.
Listen, you got to deal with all kinds, right? We've got here, I don't know, 14, 15 divisions on the private side. There's different management. There's people that bought the company. There's different financiers. There's legal. There's, all different levels of employment. And so you've got to deal with all kinds, plus new acquisitions and new personalities and new cultures. And so this kind of, proverbial beacon that you become, where you're sending message and managerial, direction to wide varieties of companies and people all the time. You have to deal with all kinds. So for us, it was kind of this honing in of a sort of, I guess, proverbial persona that you approach any subject matter in the same kind of way, which stems from transparency, that then moves into something that we consider to try to be as rational as possible. And then it just moves into how best you can communicate that. So regardless of issue, regardless of task, whether it's selling to a buyer at retail, whether it's trying to convince a seller that you're the best guy to acquire, whether it's dealing with an HR issue, finance, whatever it is, if it's not approached in the same tenets, you're never going to be able to extract the essence of the communication and thus not be able to move the ball forward, right? So it's ubiquitous throughout.
No, it's so interesting because obviously you talk the so many different parts of a business, especially when you're public. It's how do you take care of this? How do you take care of that? And it's, like you say, it all comes down to a balance and trusting people. Extremely interesting. Obviously, I'm surprised that you're dodging these tree branches as you're walking. It's honestly pretty impressive.
Big branch. I'd be worried if I didn't miss it. So.
I'm not sure if I'd have to leave that in the video or not. That's the part that I'm more concerned about now. But I think this was good. It's a little bit more of a fun video. Obviously, you're walking around. Is there anything else? When this video really is just about you. Anything you wanted to cover? More on the side. People are used to seeing you in your showroom, in your office. Is there anything you wanted to chat about? Other things. Ross does on the side.
On the side, I'm very involved with my family, but I did want to mention one thing. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, in the context of this public company that we have, Starco Brands, that's just an extension of really our capability to truly, in a transparent way, communicate what we're doing, what's the point, what the mission is, what's our moat, why we think this is real special, right? This is just sort of an extension of that. And as we start to peel the onion back on the kind of, why, for us, it's really fascinating because, you're going to touch on subjects where we believe there's going to be, in this public format, tremendous shareholder value that we can create, which is really exciting to us because, we're in a sketchy time and, we're looking at sort of younger generations, and I've got 3 kids, and we got to look forward to sort of protect those generations and 401ks and pensions and climate change. And there's a lot of headwinds in the next 15 years. So we're making real cognizant moves today that we think can, be extremely sustainable, that are cutting edge today. And so that's just kind of, some of the driver behind Starco Brands and the passion behind what we're doing. That's just, there's a greater good, that I think we have a really interesting shot at achieving. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll delve into that subject matter, I think, deeper at a certain point in the ball game. But
Yeah. No, I think this was good. I guess I'll leave you back to the hike. I mean, I know there's so much to talk about. We were already seeing tons of feedback about certain things. People were even asking, you're such an expert. What are the important parts of a successful product? And, there's so many things coming down the pipe video wise. And obviously people listening to these, don't hesitate to throw in your feedback. Even other questions that you might have for Ross. You see him kind of in the open here walking around with this 40-pound pack. Let us know if you have any questions. It can be anything related, and we'll try and
yeah, I'd be
squeeze in
glad to.
other stuff. But Ross, thanks so much. I'll leave you to it, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks. Take care.